In this video, we will see how to work with HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. As a website owner, it's a powerful thing for you to have some understanding how HTML works and also be able to add some styles using CSS. CSS stands for Cascading Style Sheet. It's basically some rules telling the browser to render some style, and also JavaScript for adding some more functionality. Um, to do that, let's create a test page, and we can play around with some HTML and explain how basically the HTML language, the programming language, works. As far as the programming languages goes, HTML is the fundamental or the simplest form of programming. To get started, we'll continue to work with this domain 2cyclemotoral.com, and we'll create a test page just to play around with some HTML thing. We'll call it as test. As we can see, we've created a test page, and we'll click on edit, and right there. So for this video, we will mainly work on the HTML editor, and we will see what happens on the editor on the left. HTML are little codes, codes that browser understands. We read good, beautiful looking web pages, but behind the scene, it's all marked up with HTML, because we can tell the browser to make a certain text look a certain way by using appropriate HTML tags. Most of the HTML tags open and close. For example, let's create a paragraph. So for paragraph in HTML, paragraph tag works like this. It looks like this. So I've opened a paragraph tag that's called a p tag, like that, and I've closed the paragraph tag. It's also like a container. So now inside this container, I can add a paragraph like that. Now I've just created a paragraph, and I can just copy that in. And I've created a block of content, and this content, the browser understands this content as a paragraph. Now I can add another paragraph like that. P, open and close, and inside this I can add some more content. So as you can see on the left side, now you can see two paragraphs. And time to time, you'll also come across another type of container that we popularly use in HTML. We call the div tag. Div. So the div tag, we use div tag to define sections of websites. The entire layout of the website is designed using div tags. And like the paragraph tag, div tag is also a block element, which means if I add some content in here, it will behave similar to a paragraph that you can see on the left side. And we use div tags to add more than just text. In paragraph, we mainly put text and some images relevant to that paragraph. But in div tag, we can put paragraphs inside div tags. We can define sections of data inside the div tag. We use div tags for slideshows and defining a whole bunch of images and blocks like that. So it's a container that can do a little bit more than just having a, a paragraph of text. And I would also like to show you another container called span tag, which also we use commonly. So span. So this span tag is slightly different in how it works. Again, you can add content and it will look similar to the other containers. As you can see on the left, it's creating another paragraph looking container. But the difference between a span and div tag and p tag is that the span tag is a inline element. Um, like for example, if I create another span tag and create content, it'll add to the it'll just continue in the same line. So we have a block element which will create blocks of elements, and then we have inline containers that will create content, and with the same flow in the same line it can continue. For example, here we can call it as an end of this span and beginning of this container, and as you can see it's all in one line. So span tags are inline elements and div tags are block elements and p tags are also block elements, and almost all of the uh, elements or containers open and then it closes, and there are some uh, uh, HTML elements that does not require to be closed, like for example image element. Images don't have to be closed because it's it works slightly differently. So let's go ahead and add an image and see um, how that works. So I'm just going to drag and drop an image. I'll just take this logo that I created for Sabre subdomain. I'm going to drop it right there. Okay, and as we see here, we can the editor has created a paragraph tag, and inside it created a span tag, and inside that it created an image tag. I'm not sure why it created a span tag, so I can delete that. So it's got a so now we see an image tag inside a paragraph tag. So as you can see, the image tag does not require to be closed off like the span tag. Instead, it just closes by itself using a slash at the end of the tag. The reason being is image tag, we're not we don't have to, we can declare the image using the src, the source attribute inside the image tag. So there's nothing to contain, so it doesn't have to be closed off with an ending like the paragraph and span tag. So an image tag is called and we declare where the image resides, and the job is done. So we don't have to close it off with a similar pattern like that. This is not right, so we don't need that. And similarly, a break, br, this is called a break tag, and this also does not have nothing to close on it. You can just close it like that. Br is a tag that we use it to break lines. So for example, if we go to this first paragraph and I type in br, and I can see on the left it's breaking off, it's breaking the line. So I can add one more br, and I can see on the left I'm creating another break. I can add one more. I can on the left you can see another break. So break tags, image tags are two good examples that does not follow uh, opening and closing, but every other tags that are used as a container to hold content use must be opened and closed, and there are different other um, tags like form tags to hold a form, which I'll explain in another video, and uh, and you can learn about more about how HTML works. So to know the fundamentally to have more control and to read how the page is laid out when you're editing existing pages, like for example when you're editing a home page, for example, there's a lot of HTML running around here, and if you want to understand how this works, uh, you will now know that here we have a div tag, uh, and that's a class called flex slider, and inside this container we have some data that runs the slideshow. So we have so inside that container we have another container called slides, and then we have the data codes for that. So you will be able to have a better understanding of uh, what these things are doing. And in this editor you can also close it off, like for example you're able to click on these arrows and you can open and close container by container, um, so that it makes it more makes it a little less complicated to look at. For example, here we have a container called div, and that's a class called image fade. So as you can see, we have these images that nicely fade and unfade when you move the mouse, and this functionality is called by a program which is called by this class called image fade. So wherever you add this class to this div container, and all the images inside it is going to have the same behavior. So inside this container we have all of these images inside. So if it's too complicated, you can just close this whole container, and now you know that there is two main containers here. That is first container holding the flex slider, and then another container that is holding the all these images. So as you start working on multiple pages, having a basic understanding of how HTML tags work will make a world of difference for you. Uh, Now, secondly, I would like to also explain a little bit about this feature right here, uh, adding an inline JavaScript and CSS code, this one right here. To work on this, we will go back to the page that we created earlier, which is the fuel treatment under the winter storage subcategory. We'll continue editing that. And in this page, uh, just give me 1 second. All right, there we are. So in this page, we have the h1 tag, which contains the header, and there is also h2 tag, which is smaller than the h1, and then h3 tag, which is even more smaller. We can try that actually right now. H2 tag. So you can see that on the left, the size is going a little bit lower, and then we have h3 tag. Now it's going a little bit smaller, and then we have h4 tag. Now the size is even more smaller. So we have, as you can see, you can effectively use various tags to style your pages and to format it nicely the way you wanted it. And then we have the classes, predefined classes, to make them look beautiful. For example, if I take off this, you'll see on the left that definition that background is gone because we've defined a class called divider. It's just a name. You can call this class anything you want. um, because it nicely divides off one section from the other. This class, so I called it as a divider. So I'll go back to h1 tag. That's what we want, and then I'll show you how to create a class using the CSS editor. Um, when we created this page, we added an image, and we also made the image. Uh, we set a margin on the left. Now let's go one step forward and create a class to it. Like here, I have added a class called image border. I just created that. You can call it anything you want. Um, there is also a style tag that we had added when we created this article. The style tag has some style definition. This definition can be moved over to um, the the class that we are going to create. But now let's just keep it the way it is, and just add the class, and we'll define a class equal class name. You can define any name you want. So because we want to uh, play around with adding a border to this image, we'll call it as an image border. And once that is done, we will create the rules for this class. So we'll open the add inline JavaScript and CSS code. We'll open this editor, and then we will add a style, define a style, and create a class inside that style tag. So first we have to create a style tag. There we go. And inside the style tag we will create the class. Classes always starts with a dot. So dot image border, and we'll open and close a, a, a curly bracket. All classes CSS work that way. And we will define a border, 1 pixel. The border width is 1 pixel, and the border styling is solid line, and we will make it red. That's it. And now we can do a preview. Let's see. Just give me 1 second. I just cleared the memory of the browser. I was working on this before, and I did the border before, and the border was showing up. So I just cleared the memory, and now I refreshed it, and as you can see, we have a thin 1 pixel red border around this image, and we can go ahead and add a padding to it, 10 pixel, and click on refresh, and now you can see the border nice and beautiful because it's got a padding around the image. You can always reduce it to fit exactly how you wanted it, and if you want slight curves to be on the edges, you can do a border radius, say 3 pixel, and click on refresh, and you can see a slight border, and you can increase it if you want and make it more pronounced, like that, like a 13 pixel will look like that. Yeah, the refresh button is a very nice feature. The go button will load the page just like a browser. The refresh button will refresh the page and also will scroll down to exactly what you were viewing before clicking on the refresh button. So if you are working on this area, the refresh button will save the editors, and then it will load the page, and it will move the page, scroll it for you, and continue and make you view the exact spot that you are working on. So the refresh button is a nice feature, and also of course you can view the page in full size like that, and you can also invoke the same view by clicking on this link on top, the same thing. And if you want to view it on a full browser, you can right click on that link and open link in new window, and there we go. So you can view your edits however you want it to do. All right, and now so we've created a basic uh, uh, class. We've defined a class here, and we've defined the rules for that class. Say for example, if you want to reuse this on every single page, um, you can eventually develop a collection of your own styles or class names, and you can implement it or add it domain wide. So if I want this particular um, style to be available in every other page that I'm going to edit in the future, or even the files that I've created in the past, I just have to add this block of code to my global or this domain wide uh, CSS editor. So I just copy this, or I can even cut it and go to domain wide settings and click on select the 2cyclemotorol.com, as we are working on styles for that domain. Click on domain wide settings and click on site wide add on CSS and paste it. As I mentioned before, you don't have to add, or you should not add the style tag here, because this editor, the contents of this editor is added to a style sheet, to the master style sheet uh, of the site. So we'll just go ahead and save this. So after saving, you can check it, it's still there. Close it, and now let's do a refresh. Just give me 1 second. Yeah, now you can see the styles that were added to the global rules, or the domain wide rules, now uh, working, even though we've removed the style from here in this inline editor. It's working because we've saved to the main global rules. Same ways you can add JavaScript. So you can add a script tag like that, and you can add your own JavaScript like alert high. And if I refresh this page, you can see the page alerting high. And when you're working with JavaScript, it's important to follow uh, good methodologies, because when the page is compressed, all the lines will be shortened. For example, a code like this will work in JavaScript, and also if I take off this and make a new line, this will also work, but I can add another line here like that, and both will work now. It's now, because it's not properly coded, I think it's not working. Now it's working. Hi and then bye. So we have two alerts. So when the page is compressed, for example, in a real world, this is also a right way of doing it. Like for example, in when you're working with JavaScript in the regular application, without this semicolon also will work, but in this application it will not, because in the back end these codes are getting compressed like this into one line. So proper coding methodologies are required to be adopted for your code to work. So when you add these um, proper uh, coding methodologies, then it will work. Otherwise, it might not. So if you find when you're adding codes, especially to JavaScript, and it doesn't work, you may want to check if the parameters are right. All right, and that's it for today. Thank you for watching.